Merci beaucoup d'être venu, tout le monde. Ça me fait plaisir d'être ici à Vancouver. Il n'y a pas longtemps, il y a eu une entente entre les citoyens et le pays. C'était compris que tout le monde qui travaillait fort pouvait avoir une maison. En fait, au Canada, les maisons n'étaient pas chères, et avec raison. On a beaucoup de terrain. En fait, on a beaucoup plus de terrain de tous les autres pays du G7. Mais après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, le loyer moyen a doublé d'environ 900 dollars à plus de 2000 dollars à travers les 10 villes les plus grandes au pays. Les paiements mensuels moyens des Canadiens a plus de doublé ici au Canada après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau. Et les paiements nécessaires, au début, ont doublé à travers le pays et triplé ici à Vancouver après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau a rendu la crise beaucoup plus pire. Pourquoi? Il a augmenté les taux d'intérêt avec les déficits inflationnistes. Oui, c'est vrai que la Banque du Canada est responsable pour choisir des taux d'intérêt, mais les déficits inflationnistes de Justin Trudeau augmentent les taux d'intérêt et ainsi des paiements hypothécaires nécessaires pour avoir une maison. En plus, il continue de donner davantage d'argent aux gardiens de privilèges aux gouvernements municipaux, des politiciens qui empêchent la construction des maisons ici au Canada, avec l'appui de Justin Trudeau, sont responsables pour le fait qu'au G7, on a le moins de maisons par capita au G7, même si on a le plus grand montant de terrain parmi ces mêmes pays. Moins de maisons veut dire plus des prix et plus cher pour nos jeunes. Et maintenant, 9 sur 10 jeunes Canadiens croient qu'ils ne vont jamais pouvoir acheter leur propre maison. En plus, ce n'est pas un problème mondial, c'est un problème unique au Canada. Les maisons ici au Canada sont plus chères qu'aux États-Unis, même si les Américains ont moins de terrain et 10 fois plus de personnes. On a Vancouver est le 3e et Toronto est le 10e marché immobilier les plus chers au monde. Pire que New York, pire que Singapour, pire que d'autres pays, d'autres villes avec plus de personnes, plus d'argent et moins de terrain. Il nous faut ramener les maisons chez nous. Ramener le gros bon sens chez nous en incitant la construction de maisons. Donc, aujourd'hui, j'annonce qu'un gouvernement Poilievre va inciter nos gouvernements locaux d'accélérer la construction de maisons. On va le faire en donnant davantage d'argent de l'infrastructure aux villes qui accélèrent la construction et en retirant l'argent avec des pénalités pour des villes qui empêchent la construction. On va lier les dollars de l'infrastructure que reçoivent des villes au nombre de maisons qui sont complétées. On va obliger que chaque station de transport en commun financée par le gouvernement fédéral ait des appartements et des condos liés et alentour pour que nos jeunes et nos aînés puissent vivre là-bas sans avoir une voiture. Et on va vendre 15% de nos 37 000 édifices du gouvernement fédéral qui sont souvent vides et qu'on peut utiliser pour convertir en maisons. On va inciter la construction des millions et des millions de maisons à travers notre pays en enlevant les gardiens de privilèges aux hôtels de ville comme ici à Vancouver. Ici à Vancouver, le coût du gouvernement dans chaque maison, c'est plus de 600 000 $. Ça augmente le coût pour les gens et ça empêche l'opportunité de vivre dans leur propre maison ou de quitter la maison de leurs parents. Assez, c'est assez. Ramenons le gros bon sens chez nous. Bâtissons davantage de maisons pour que nos jeunes puissent lancer leur vie, commencer une famille et réussir dans leurs efforts. On devrait être un pays qui récompense ceux qui travaillent fort. C'est le but du gouvernement Poilievre, un Canada pour tout le monde qui travaille fort, un pays qui fonctionne pour ceux et celles qui travaillent fort. Merci beaucoup d'être venu. Now in English. We had a deal. We had a deal in Canada. You work hard, you get a house. It's obvious. Housing should be cheap in Canada. Why? We have by far the most land per capita of any G7 country. We have land, labor, and lumber. In fact, housing was always cheap in Canada until Justin Trudeau came along. Consider these facts, these hard, painful, but inescapable facts about 8 years of Justin Trudeau. In that time, the required monthly payment on an average mortgage has gone from $1,400 to $3,200. The average rent has gone from $950 to $2,200. And the average down payment has gone from $22,000 to $45,000 across Canada. In Vancouver, the Trudeau record is far worse. In his 8 years in power, the required down payment to own the average house has gone from about $60,000 to over $220,000. This is 8 years of Trudeau, in which he has doubled the cost of housing. He's done this with inflationary deficits that have forced the Bank of Canada to raise interest rates on mortgages. He's also done it by continuing to shovel billions of dollars to the government gatekeepers at city halls like Vancouver's that block construction. We have the fewest houses per capita in all of the G7 after 8 years of Trudeau, even though we have the most land to build on. It doesn't make sense. Housing is more expensive in Canada than in the United States, even though they have 10 times the people on a smaller area of land. We have, in Vancouver, is the third most overpriced housing market in the world. Worse than New York City, worse than Singapore, worse than London, England, Los Angeles, other places with far more people and far less land. This is not a problem we can blame on some faraway global phenomenon. The housing shortage and the housing inflation under 8 years of Trudeau is a homegrown problem. Enough excuses from Trudeau. He has caused this problem, and it's time that we fix it. We know the problem is that we don't have enough houses, and that drives up the cost. Vancouver City Hall, which keeps getting hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of handouts from the Trudeau government, is standing in the way of our young people owning homes. $644,000 of the cost of the average house or apartment in Vancouver is the direct result of government gatekeepers at City Hall imposing permit delays, red tape, taxes, and development charges. All of that is passed on to the end buyer. It's great for the wealthy. Their home values get inflated. But it's terrible for our working class youth, our immigrants, and other outsiders that are shut out of the dream of home ownership. It's a massive transfer of wealth from the have-nots to the have-yachts. Enough of the gatekeeping. It's time to bring homes that people can afford. This should be a country that works for the people who work. If you have a job, you put in a hard day's work, you should be able to afford to buy a house and start a family. And when Pierre Poilievre is Prime Minister, we will bring home that opportunity for every single person. And here is how we're going to do it. Here's the deal. A Poilievre government will link the number of infrastructure dollars a city gets to the number of houses it allows to be completed. Governments that block construction will be fined with clawbacks to their federal infrastructure money. Those that get out of the way, speed up building permits and free up land to build more, will get bonuses with extra infrastructure dollars. I will require every single federally funded transit station be surrounded by high-density apartments and condos so that our young people and our seniors don't even have to own a car. They can simply get on the elevator and jump on the train or bus. We'll also sell off 15% of the 37,000 federal buildings, big, ugly, empty buildings, many of them not even in use because people are now working from home. Want to sell them off and turn them into housing. We're talking about 5,000 or 6,000 buildings and other brownfield lands that are doing nothing that could be housing our working class young people across this country. We need to build millions of homes in order to bring homes that our young people, our working class, and our brilliant immigrants can afford to live in. You know, the number one cause of inequality in Canada and poverty is the housing shortage. And the gatekeepers who stand up for the privileges of the very few at the expense of the hardworking many. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, everything feels broken, with crime raging out of control in places like Vancouver, people dropping dead of drug overdoses as heroin and other drugs are flooding our streets. Everything feels broken, but most of all, the deal is broken. The deal that if you work hard, you get a house. Well, we're going to bring back that deal. And we're going to bring homes that Canadians can afford. It's the common sense of the common people, united for our common home, Canada. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
Floor.
Bon matin, M. Poilievre.
Oui, bon matin.
Jennifer Maher de Radio-Canada. Comment réagissez-vous à la suite de l'article du Globe and Mail sur les allégations d'ingérence du consulat général de Chine à Vancouver dans les élections municipales?
C'est difficile pour moi à y réagir parce que je ne suis pas ici à Vancouver, je ne faisais pas partie de la campagne électorale municipale. Mais je veux juste dire que, évidemment, l'ingérence de Pékin à travers le Canada est un problème évident. Et c'est sûr que Pékin est intervenu pour aider Justin Trudeau à gagner des élections et pour supporter Justin Trudeau. Pékin a donné 200 000 $ à la Fondation Trudeau. Trudeau doit mettre fin au camouflage qu'il fait. Il essaie de camoufler son implication et sa connaissance de l'ingérence de Pékin. Il doit maintenant ouvrir les portes à la vérité avec une grande enquête publique et indépendante. C'est ça la solution. Merci.
Next question.
Justin from Global News. So can you explain why it's so important for your party to have the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff testify about election interference allegations?
The Prime Minister's Chief of Staff was intimately involved in his leadership campaign and in all of his federal election campaigns. We now know that Beijing interfered in numerous of those campaigns to help Justin Trudeau stay in power. She would have been involved in all of the inner workings of those campaigns, and she would have been aware of all the briefings that CSIS and other intelligence bodies would have provided. She knows all the secrets. It's time for her to come forward and honestly testify about what happened, what was Beijing's role in supporting Justin Trudeau, and how do we prevent this kind of interference from ever happening again in Canada?
Next question.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. Martin McMahon with City News. I just wanted to ask about this plan you're talking about today in terms of federal money and I guess some conditions that you would attach to it. Would this be for new federal money, or would you have the capability to claw back previous commitments from previous governments?
Future. For future gas tax transfers and funding for transit projects will all be linked to getting the gatekeepers out of the way, speeding up building permits, and freeing up land to build houses across Canada. You know, according to CMHC data, which my office requested, Vancouver City Hall only approved about 6,000 housing units last year. If those numbers are true, it's a disgrace. That's the reason why our young people are living in despair in their parents' basements right across the city. It's the reason why we have record homelessness. It's the reason why our youth are crammed into 400 square foot apartments. That's not the Canadian dream. Canadians deserve better. Before Trudeau, housing was affordable and even cheap in lots of communities across this country. It's time to get the gatekeepers out of the way, build more homes, and bring homes that Canadians can afford.
Next question.
Hi, Mr. Poilievre. Chuck Chen with the Canadian Press. There has been a lot of recent media reports based on leaked CSIS documents. I was wondering if you're concerned that this could potentially affect our relationship with our Five Eyes partners, and also, if you're Prime Minister, what would you do about it?
I didn't hear the last part of your question.
If you're Prime Minister, what would you do about the CSIS leaks?
Right. Thank you. Well, first of all, it is clear that Justin Trudeau has lost the confidence of our intelligence community, and there's an open revolt against the Prime Minister. I think our intelligence community is very worried about what the Prime Minister is covering up and keeping secret. He's putting his own partisan interests ahead of our national interests. As for our Five Eyes, Trudeau's already ruined our relationship with the Five Eyes. They no longer trust our government. They've cut Trudeau out of key discussions like the Quad and the other alliances that they're building to protect their national security and interests. Our allies don't trust Justin Trudeau. They see him as weak. They see him as incapable of defending international security. And increasingly, Canada is isolated from its allies because Trudeau has failed to act in our national interest and in the interest of the security of our allies. Thank you.
This will be the last question.
Thank you.
Hi, bonjour. Je vais vous demander une réponse en français et en anglais à cette question. Trudeau vous accuse de jouer le jeu de ceux qui veulent semer le chaos dans notre processus démocratique. Est-ce que vous ne craignez pas de miner encore davantage la confiance du public envers la démocratie en attaquant David Johnston? Et la réponse, s'il vous plaît, en français and in English. Thank you.
C'est Justin Trudeau qui a semé le chaos dans notre démocratie. Il est au courant de l'ingérence de Pékin dans nos élections depuis au moins 2017. Des documents et des briefages lui ont été fournis depuis 6 ans, indiquant qu'un gouvernement autoritaire étranger était en train de se mêler dans nos affaires et nos élections. Il n'a littéralement rien fait. Il a gardé secret et maintenant, il empêche les Canadiens de savoir la vérité en retardant et en empêchant une enquête publique. S'il veut vraiment rebâtir la confiance qu'il a détruite dans notre système électoral, il devrait déclencher dès aujourd'hui une enquête publique pour que les Canadiens puissent connaître tous les détails et la vérité. Et c'est aussi lui qui a décidé de nommer un membre de la Fondation Trudeau, un organisme qui a été financé par Pékin, pour faire ce travail de rapporteur. Donc, c'est Justin Trudeau qui nuit à la processus et à la réputation des Canadiens. Donc, c'est lui qui devrait prendre la responsabilité pour ses propres décisions et pour les conséquences. In English, it's Justin Trudeau that is hurting Canadians' faith in our democracy by covering up the interference by the communist Chinese government in our elections. He's known about it since at least 2017, 6 years ago, when he began getting detailed briefings of this interference. He covered it up. He did absolutely nothing to protect our Chinese community against intimidation and our elections against foreign manipulation. Still, he covers it up, fighting against an open public inquiry. We really have to wonder, what is it that he has to hide? And it is Justin Trudeau that has put Mr. Johnston in this terrible situation by naming a member of the China-financed Trudeau Foundation to perform this role of looking into Beijing's interference in our election campaigns. That was Justin Trudeau's error in judgment. And all of this points to him covering up the truth because he's afraid that Canadians will find out how he failed to stand up for our interests and instead stood up for his own. Thank you.